All right, everyone, welcome back. Hope everyone had a safe and happy New Year's. We are recording the first podcast of 2023. So hoping for another good year of pods to come. Uh, yeah, I didn't do anything too crazy, I guess. I don't know.
Hmm.
I was that was a fun one. It was Randy, his New Year's birthday, so it was a good time. But you weren't even were you even on that? You weren't even on island, huh?
Nope, I was at the Magic Kingdom in LA.
Well, what a way to bring in the new year. Yeah. So anyway, I hope everyone had a good one. Unfortunately, Wade got COVID, so yeah, he was stuck in his room the whole weekend by himself.
Uh,
So it was a tough one. He's feeling better though, so he should be good tomorrow. That would be his fifth day. So, or I guess today is his fifth day, so he should be good tomorrow. Other than that, it's just we can jump right into football stuff. Uh, it was a big week for football, but first of all, got to discuss the what happened tonight, right? So, Cincinnati's playing Buffalo. It's a huge game, right? Um, Essentially a bid for first place in the AFC East is on the line here. So it was a huge game, a lot of hype, probably the most anticipated Monday Night Football game of the year. But unfortunately, just a tragic sequence of events happened. Uh, so Damar Hamlin, who is a second year safety for the Bills, he's been playing really well for them all year, right? He started, I think, 14 games for them this year. But so he tackles T Higgins, and I was watching the play live, Matt, and it was like nothing. It wasn't a big hit. It wasn't a um you know helmet to helmet type of deal. It wasn't like a hit that would register any kind of concern on any level. Until I was literally I saw the play happen. I looked away for like a couple seconds, and I look back, and now they're like, oh, there's an injury on the field. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like, oh, it's the guy that just made the tackle. And as I'm watching this live, I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe I mean, you never know when they're lying down, right? But then all of a sudden, just the situation starts to escalate like that. I mean, they're rushing, trainers are rushing over on the sidelines. So I was like, oh man, maybe it's it was a head injury. I didn't see it, or it was some, a leg or something that got twisted up that I didn't see. Because we've seen those types of hits before, or injuries before, right? And obviously that can greatly concern players' health, but it wasn't until they showed the replay that I got really concerned and like worried. Because he gets back up, and then you kind of see him start to
he took like two steps
took
and then
two
he just
steps,
collapsed.
collapsed, and I mean, just our own experience, Matt, the like seeing someone collapse is
Uh,
yeah,
yeah, we don't
that's
we don't we don't speak of
we don't
that
speak of
too
it, but
much.
it's a gut wrenching like
Yeah.
situation to see, and for that to happen live, right? It was um anyway. So I really started getting worried when I started to see these football players who, I mean, they've seen a lot, and they've seen a lot of injuries, high school, college, pros. We've all seen some really bad ones, right? But it was the looks on like Josh Allen's face, Stephon Diggs's face, like Tre'Davious White. They're like in tears. They started, they were in tears, and I'm like, okay, what is going on now? Because it must at that point I'm like, okay, it must be pretty bad. For these guys to be crying like that in the I mean, it's always a somber moment, even when Tua got hurt earlier, right? It was, the whole stadium was, in a hush and waiting. But this one, it was like, it was just happening, escalating so fast. And then you hear right there, they were administering CPR. And that's when it's like, oh
Intense
my,
CPR.
intense
It was
CPR.
intense. That's what they
So
reported.
that's when I'm like, oh my gosh. So it was his heart, like his heart must have stopped working or stopped, or I was like, oh my God. Luckily they apparently now, so the update on Damar Hamlin is that yes, so he did suffer cardiac arrest. We didn't know it at the time. Um, his heartbeat his heartbeat was restored on the field. So I'm guessing whoever administered CPR like essentially started up his heart again. Or they used the AED, I think as well, they reported. Um, but not he's still in critical condition. He is sedated, at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. But just thoughts and prayers, man, because this is definitely a scary situation and completely unprecedented for an entire game to be canceled as well. I mean, I don't want to say the NFL doesn't care about its players. I don't know, what goes on in the building, but for them, this multi-billion dollar corporation uh to actually halt a game that would be huge for them. That's how I kind of knew, this is not any the show must go on type of hit or we've seen, in the past. This is a definitely serious situation. So, um, thoughts and prayers for Demar. I thought actually ESPN, uh, like Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, uh, all the guys in the studio, Scott Van Pelt, Ryan Clark, they did a really good job of talking everyone through it. They were being, pretty like as respectful as they could, honest as they could, relaying that back. And yeah, I guess, at the end of the day, we love sports, we love football, we love to watch it, but yeah, life is definitely more important. So, we're praying for him and we just hope he can pull it out. But yeah, that was one of the
Scary.
craziest, scariest situations I've seen. And it was happening live on TV in front of everyone to see. Um
That's right too. It's a Monday night primetime
Monday night
solo
primetime,
stage game.
huge game. Um, but yeah, it's just kind of a
Yeah,
reality check, right? Like, yeah, we love sports, but some things are, more important at the time. So we're praying for Demar. Hope he pulls through. He's still in critical condition, last updated. So we're still praying and hoping he pulls through. Um, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna try to attempt to segue off that. Um, and I think a good way to segue that, Matt, is we got to talk about Tua now. Obviously we've been following him this whole season. Uh, so when I was recording my segment of the podcast, he was in concussion protocol, right? But it wasn't until, I was just about to post it pretty much that it was confirmed that Tua did suffer a concussion, in that second quarter against the Packers. So really quickly, I just want to go back and say, I I mean, I've never had a concussion, at least that I know about. I mean, I've hit my head pretty hard a couple times. I don't know if I've ever had one, but yeah, pretty concerning for him to have two, potentially three. We'll never probably know if he actually did have three or not. We can probably assume he did, but for him to have three concussions now, and then for it kind of, I don't want to say it explains his second half, I don't want to make any excuses or whatever because he did play pretty bad, but if he was playing, with a concussion and you're a quarterback and you need to, there's so much that goes in, right? Communicating, relaying the play in, getting the play, communicating that, then, you snap the ball and you have to go through all your reads. That's why it's Tom Brady is still so good, right? Because or still playing at his age, right? Because the physical side, just quite frankly, doesn't matter as much as the mental does, and that's where Brady and all the greats are so good. Um, but yeah, it's interesting because now I think, what if Tua comes out of that game, right? Teddy goes in, takes over. Is that a different outcome? Right? I guess now we'll never know. Uh, And you just looking at this past game, everyone likes to say, right, about Tua, oh, you have all these great weapons, anyone could put up the numbers you put up, right? Essentially. But, it takes some you can't just throw any quarterback in and expect results. And we saw that against New England. They took a tough loss, and now the Dolphins are 8-8, 5-game losing streak. Now, I said December, right, was going to be tough, but now they're going to need help just to get into the playoffs. And Teddy got hurt as well in that New England game. So it's looking like it might be a Skylar Thompson, the rookie out of Kansas State, with the playoff hopes on the line for Miami. And I'm not sure what's gonna happen with the Buffalo situation, because Buffalo is slotted to play New England, and for Miami to get in, Buffalo needs to beat New England, and they're gonna have to beat the Jets. And it's looking pretty tough because Tua's not gonna play for sure, and it sounds like Teddy is gonna be a true game time decision. Um, but yeah, just a complete collapse from the Dolphins, quite honestly. From being 8-3, first in the division, uh, then losing 5 straight games. Now Tua's out. It's just what a roller coaster of a season for these Dolphins. But yeah, hopefully they can come back, pull it off. And then as for Tua, I don't know how he plays again this season. At least in this next regular season game for sure, right? But after what we've seen tonight as well, I think it's gonna give him a lot of perspective. He's married now. He has a wife and he has a daughter. So he has a lot to think about now. It's not just him, right? Some things are more important than sports. So I think he's gonna have to have a long, serious discussion with everyone, and we're gonna have to see what he wants to do. But if I'm if I'm anyone in that Miami building, um, I would not allow him to play the rest of this year. But that's just me. I don't know.
Well, I wouldn't think they would send them out anyway because you send them out, someone's gonna get fired, right? That's like
Yeah,
this is the second time that it happened this year with
yeah.
Tua.
And
Yeah,
so
so I don't think you can risk that if you're coming from the perspective of a trainer or front office exec. Like that just makes your organization look terrible.
yeah, and the Dolphins already with Stephen Ross did not have the
Gosh, yeah. Yeah.
greatest rep of being a honest and straightforward organization. Let's just say that, right? So I don't know. I think Tua is gonna have a lot to think about in even his career. I don't want to say he has to retire yet. I don't
That's
want to
what I was
say
gonna
it,
ask
right?
you.
Obviously, I don't know. But if the doctor's telling me like, hey, you can't be taking too many more of these hits or you're gonna have serious repercussions. And if I have a family, um, I would seriously consider retiring, but it would have to be uh I would have to hear from all my consultants, um, speak with the team, coaches, players, everyone, and come to my decision, with my family in mind. But I don't know, Matt. That's so
I don't
hard.
know.
That's
I
so
feel
hard.
like it's a legit possibility
It
that
is. I
he
think it
could
is too.
actually retire.
He could. I seriously think he
He's
could.
financially stable. I mean, he got the, I know it's not the max contract or that second contract that everyone wants, but
Hmm.
he was a first round pick. So he has a sizable income, at least for a rookie
Right.
contract. So he is financially
And
stable, and
so yeah, I agree. And
it's something to consider, I think.
even and this might sound, I don't know how crazy this sounds, but he's only 24 years old, okay? He's like our age essentially. And he could retire and even sit out like a couple years, maybe have tests done on him, frequently, regularly, um see if there's any like further damage to his brain or anything. And if you like allow yourself to heal up completely, get back to normal, you're only 24 years old. You can sit out 2, 3, 4 years. Um, you're still only 28 years old. You're not even 30 yet. So uh and if the cards are right, then maybe you can come back. I mean, we've seen some crazy comebacks, right? In the league happen before. So I don't think even that would be um an absurd thought at the moment. Um, but yeah, it might be time to just reconsider stepping back on the football field anytime soon for Tua. But if it's what it sounds like, Matt, he someone is gonna have to make that decision for him, whether it's his parents, his wife, Mike McDaniel. Someone is gonna have to take the ball out of Tua's hand because he hit his head against that Green Bay game and didn't take himself out, even if he was feeling a little woozy. We don't know what he was feeling, right? It wasn't until Mike McDaniel essentially reported um, that he was questioning, Tua. He's like, "Hey, Tua, what were some of these decisions you were making in the Packers game?" And Tua said, "Like, oh, I don't remember, coach. Like, oh, I don't know what I was thinking there. I don't know." And that's what prompted Mike McDaniel to have him go to doctors, and then lo and behold, he has a concussion. So it's hard being a pro athlete, because he takes obviously so much scrutiny, right? Analysts, fans, he's under the most scrutiny out of you know he's probably one of the most scrutinized quarterbacks in the league at the moment, right? Um, and so when he plays poorly, he hears he's injury prone, right? We know he listens to the media a little bit. He probably hears a lot, oh, he's injury prone. Can he be a franchise guy? Is he tough, tough enough and all this stuff. So yeah, it's gonna have to so I think someone's gonna have to take it out of his hands. Because I think it's just everything about him and taking the he hears all the noise as well. Uh, but yeah, I hope he does what's best for him um and his family. So yeah, I don't know, Matt. It's gonna be a tough one. Um, but anyway, that's enough. We're probably gonna have to extend this football one if we're gonna want to talk about everything. That's okay, we got time. But let's get into some actual football. There was some heavy stuff we had to talk about there. But we got to give you a chance at least to talk about your team like we do every week, right? So, Cowboys, big game. Well, I guess it now looking back after this weekend, it was a big win against Tennessee. Uh, I'm sure it wasn't as pretty as you would have liked, especially considering who was suiting up for Tennessee in that game. Uh, yeah, Matt. I know you're watching it not remotely, but not in your usual watching spots, but you still, in true Fanatic form, were able to watch your Cowboys get the win. But how'd you feel, Matt? It wasn't too pretty, but they got it done.
I was not encouraged, not at all. And like you said, right, the circumstances made it that much worse. So first off, Tennessee, Derek Henry is not playing. There's, I think they're keeping him out for next week because that's kind of all the marbles really for them. It's a winner take all for the division against Jacksonville for their Week 18 matchup. So this matchup against the Cowboys really doesn't affect them if they win or lose. So they hold out Derek Henry. Ryan Tannehill is already hurt.
Yeah, he's done for
Um,
the year.
yeah, and they're not even playing Malik Willis. Like they're playing Josh Dobbs at quarterback, and he was in street clothes 8 days ago, prior to the game. So it's kind of like that Baker Mayfield situation, right? He gets thrown onto a new team. He's got to learn all these, new plays, new playbook, and he's thrown into a Thursday night football game against a playoff team in the Cowboys. Like, what really are you going to expect from Josh Dobbs to do? Like, considering like what he was working against, Josh Dobbs played pretty good.
Yeah,
I will
I
give him that.
I thought he played pretty well. I just want to say really fast about the playbook. He probably learned it really fast because he's like a rocket scientist.
True.
So
He's a
at least I'll
smart
give
guy.
him that.
Yeah.
Smart dude, extremely
Yeah.
smart dude. Just want to throw that up
Yeah. Agreed. But you know, I'm gonna transition off of that. So speaking of smart guys, so Josh Dobbs probably he's a genius, right? A rocket scientist. But for my sake, my quarterback, not a smart guy because he leads the NFL in turnovers since he's been back from his injury. Um, and this is really frustrating too. He had 3 turnovers in total this past game, and he's now tied for the league in interceptions, and he missed 5 games. That is ridiculous. That's terrible. You can't you cannot possibly defend that. And the thing that's so frustrating about Dak is I'm looking at the big picture. This is Tennessee's, you could say, practice squad, right?
there.
So you might be able to get away with, some critical mistakes here and there, or you miss a read, you miss a throw. Um, but when you play in the playoffs, you're gonna go up against potentially Tom Brady now, Jalen Hurts, who's probably gonna win the MVP. You got the 49ers, hellacious defense. Like there's just so many good teams with good quarterback play. And whoever makes the most mistakes in playoff games is going to lose. And I have a quarterback who's now turnover prone, leading the league in interceptions and he missed 5 games. So I can't even imagine what his rate would be if he played every single game this year. And it's like the decisions that he makes, it's so un-Cooper Rush like, and I say that because, well, let's take a step back. So he had 2 interceptions. The first down, I will say it was not his fault. It was a nice throw, like a short post to Peyton Hendershot, hit him right in the hands. He, at his fault, tried to catch it with his body instead of his hands. Ball pops up. Kevin Byard, right place, right spot, gets the deflection. So I'm not going to put that on Dak, but his second interception was a typical Dak Prescott interception this year. We're trying to, get some points before the half. He's trying to be aggressive. We already have a lead, um, but he forces it into like almost triple coverage. And again, Kevin Byard knows for the ball, makes a great play on the ball, and the Titans end up getting a field goal to end the half. So instead of, at worst, you just take the lead into the half at 10 to, I think it was 10 to 3, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check. What was the score at the half? Yeah, it was 10 to 3. 10 to 3 going into the half, whatever. Not pretty, but you have a touchdown lead. You're playing a, third string quarterback. Let's just, not pretty. Let's take the lead and go with it. But now you give them life. You're giving your Tennessee a chance to get back in the game. They get a field goal. It's 10 to 6 now. That's a much different story than 10 to 3. Let me tell you. Just can't be doing that. You just can't be doing that. And I say this almost every week, probably, but Cooper Rush, the most boring, effective quarterback for this team. Why? Because he's not gonna, I don't need Cooper Rush to go throw for 400 yards, right? Not with this team, right? You need a guy who's gonna run the offense and just make the correct decisions. No, let's rely on the defense. Let's rely on our run game. In this game, maybe an exception because Tony Pollard was held out. So we're missing our kind of explosive back, and that was honestly a huge loss for us. We kind of see the impact that he can make as a playmaker for us. But, for Dak, it's like, take the check down. You had Zeke wide open in the flat. It's a 5-yard gain. You know what? Just take it. The defense is giving it to you. Just take it. Take what the defense gives you. Don't try to force every single throw. We're not Patrick Mahomes. Let's not try to be Aaron Rodgers and throw it so precisely that we're gonna be like, wow, like we're the most effective thrower of the football. Like, no, that's not our game. I need you to take your checkdowns. I need you to take your sure open routes. Take the wide open high percentage throws because that's how we're gonna win in the playoffs. So He's got one game to fix it, and I need to see a clean football game against Washington next week from Dak Prescott's perspective. Um, but really, he's kind of the main concern. I really can't judge the defense because they were playing Josh Dobbs. So, yeah, the numbers look good, but yeah, not really much to say there. Still need to see a little bit more from Micah Parsons, but I did like what he produced this game. The box score didn't show, but he was making plays. Um, I just think his impact was shown mightily because he was drawing false starts. He's drawing double teams now from tight ends and getting extra help on blocking, but he's also kind of just freeing up other guys to get one-on-ones and free rushes to the quarterback. So things like that, that's what the number one guy's supposed to do. And yeah, it didn't show up in the box score, but I'll take it because that shows that he was effectively getting to the quarterback at least and causing some havoc. So I'm looking to see Micah Parsons. We're not probably not going to win Defensive Player of the Year at this point, but yeah, keep building on that energy, and in 2 weeks, most likely, it's time to unleash. But offensively, I did like some bright spots. CeeDee Lamb obviously was fantastic. Wide receiver one stuff, another 100-yard game for him. 11 catches, which is pretty ridiculous, but also concerning to me because if CD is doing all this work, I need help. I can't rely on CD to just carry us through the playoffs. So Dalton Schultz had a nice game, which is encouraging because we're going to need him. T.Y. Hilton was another bright spot. For his second game in Cowboy Blue, 4 catches for 50 yards it's pretty good because I'm not expecting T.Y. Hilton to be the old T.Y. Hilton, the Pro Bowl receiver. I need T.Y. Hilton to be a playmaker for 1 or 2 big catches a game, kind of like what he did against Philadelphia. Just some kind of big play to spark us. And I like that. I think he's getting more comfortable with the offense. So I'm hoping in the big picture within 2 weeks, we can see Ty making some plays on the field when it counts. But I really can't say much about this game. I am a little concerned though about the injuries. And the one injury that's a little concerning is Tyler Biotish, my center. So with him going down, we had to kind of reshuffle our offensive line. So now we move Connor McGovern from left guard to center. You got Tyler Smith now moving from tackle to guard. Jason Peters is now inserted into the starting lineup at left tackle. And you already have Tyron Smith playing out of position from his NFL career, as he was a typical left tackle for us for the past decade. But he's playing right tackle now since Terrence Steele is already gone for the year. So there's just so many pieces being shuffled. And as much as I don't like Biotish sometimes, his loss really kind of just shuffled our offensive line unit around. And we had the luxury this year, for the most part, of having that continuity. We always had, for the most part, Terrence Steele at right tackle. You have Zach Martin at right guard, Biotish at center, McGovern at left guard, and Tyler Smith at left tackle. So that was basically our line for the past 16 weeks of game action. So I think, if Biotish's injury, I don't know the severity of it, but again, looking big picture in the playoffs, if he's out and we're going to have this, mix and match offensive line, I need to see some ability to communicate, pick up blitz reads, doing the little things, because it's just even simple things like snapping the ball, getting a clean snap to your quarterback, because we cannot have those mistakes. We can't have false starts. We can't have holding penalties. We cannot have bad snaps. We can't have bad blitz pickup, because that's going to kill us. So I'm a little concerned on that aspect with the injury standpoint. Micah Parsons, not too worried about him. I know he had a little cast on his hand, but he was still Micah Parsons. We don't need him to be catching passes and intercepting balls. We need him to get to the quarterback. So he can rush at one hand. He's fine. But Tyler Biotish is a little concerning for me. So hopefully, I think we just kind of, if we win this game next week, whatever, it's fine. but I need uh, as many healthy bodies as possible for the playoffs. So, yep, I'm just looking forward to 2 weeks from now because I know the Eagles lost. So the Cowboys are still mathematically alive for the division and potentially a number one seed, which would be huge. Um, but it's a little tricky now. So Dallas, I almost kind of wanted them to get the 5 seed last week because you could treat this next week as a bye week. But now you kind of have to go into this next week um, and play your guys. You got to play your guys because you have something to play for. So it'll be interesting how Mike McCarthy handles the rotation and the guys he's going to want to play. But for sure, I'm throwing Dak in there because he needs a lot of practice. Every rep counts for him. And hey, honestly, I don't root for injury, but if he goes down or he's not healthy, I got Cooper Rush on the bench, so I'm not worried about that. But yeah, I don't know how to feel about this week because it's still a long shot that we get the number one seed and winning the division. It's still a long shot, but you still have to play for something. So I just want my guys at the end of the day to be healthy and ready for the playoffs. But yeah, it's a typical Cowboy week, I guess. Not gonna say how about them Cowboys with enthusiasm because we did play Josh Dobbs off the street, so I'll give them a pass on that one. They need to earn that. How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about Dak this year, I don't know if he listens to the critics or not, right? But remember that saying we were using, like he's just dinking and dacking, or like that Skip likes to say, right? Now it's almost like he's
I missed that.
he's trying to prove, right, that he's worth that $75 million extension, right? And even a lot of his throws now that get intercepted, at least from what I can see, don't look like bad reads, right? It's not like he's looking at a guy that looks wide open, but he's actually not. He's just trying to throw guys open. And not only throw guys open, but he's just trying to fit tight windows sometimes. And I don't know if he's trying to prove that to himself, to the organization, that he is this elite level thrower that can make these extreme precision passes. And to his credit, sometimes he does, right? He does hit those. I mean, even the touchdown, right? To I think
The
it was Dalton
Schultz.
Schultz in the corner, right?
Mhm.
He has to make a perfect throw there. Because the defender is right underneath Dalton Schultz, and Dak puts a perfect ball on it, just high enough so Dalton Schultz can jump over the defender and get it. But if that's any lower, right, that has potential to be picked off in the end zone. And so I don't know if he's out there trying to do too much sometimes. Uh, I think that's a conversation that they would need to have because I don't think you know Dak's play has gotten worse per se. Like his talent, I'll say his talent, right? I don't think his talent has gotten worse. He hasn't improved a lot, but he's still a solid quarterback. I think it's just I think it looks like he's trying to do too much. That's what I'll say. Um, because we know he can make some of these big time throws and he can have big time game winning drives when he has to. But if he's just a little bit smarter, plays within himself, he doesn't have to go win the game when you're down by 3. You can be ahead 10 and take a knee at the end of the game, right? So maybe that's one thing I'll say with the Cooper Rush thing. Maybe Cooper Rush can or someone can help him out. Like, hey, Dak, we just can't be shooting ourselves in the foot anymore, right? We can't be um turning the ball over as much as we are. Uh, you know, we just need to take what's there, um, give or take what the defense gives us, right? And yeah, I think it should be good. And then I also wanted to say, I think I'm so close, Matt, but um, CD Lamb to me now is climbing up those ranks of the elite wide receivers in the NFL because now it really is a one man show almost out there in the receiving corps. I know they got T.Y. Hilton, they still have Michael Gallup, but CD is starting to take over that number 88 role and responsibility. So I don't know. I think that's really encouraging to see. Three straight 100-yard games, right? Starting to put it together right when he has to, right before the playoffs. So I don't know. I think that's something to definitely be encouraged by moving forward. And when you get Tony Pollard back, that's a pretty good. I mean, you guys have the talent now. Now it's just about putting it together. Um, at least you will have to you play Carson Wentz, your favorite quarterback. I'm not sure what Ron Rivera was thinking, and I love Ron
Oh
Rivera.
gosh, are you talking about the press conference?
I mean, we can talk about the press conference, but even for me, it's why do you what what is it that Carson Wentz is going to give you that's so much greater than what Taylor Heineke will give you? You know, um, I know Taylor Heineke is not going to wow you sometimes, but you know, guys like to play for him, and that I think has always been evident. Um, I mean, they lost three in a row, I guess. But man, to me, like taking out Heineke and putting in Carson Wentz, uh, I, I guess I don't get it. I mean, what did Carson Wentz do? 140 yards for three picks. Like in a pivotal game, you had to win, right? I would just stick with Taylor Heineke. That would have been my guy. But hey, now at least you don't have to worry about Washington. And if Mr. Wentz shows up and it's the bad Mr. Wentz, then I like Dallas's chances at winning next week. So yeah, it'll be pretty interesting, man. I just got I feel so bad for Terry. Like someone just got to help Terry McLaurin
I
out.
think, yeah. Like Terry, I think he has a good connection with Heineke. Like you can see, like they both kind of on the same page, but something with Wentz, like they're not clicking.
Hmm.
They're not clicking. I don't know what it is, but hey, I'm happy. I love Carson Wentz. As long as he's not on my team, I love him. Great quarterback.
Man, I just yeah, definitely some interesting decisions there by Washington. And then yeah, like you said, not knowing you could be eliminated. I guess that doesn't matter too much, right? Because you just care about winning the game in front of you. You don't worry about other stuff. But I mean, still, you would think the head coach would know the different playoff scenarios, right? Um, yeah. Well, anyway, let's. I think it's a good time for a break. Let's pause here, take a little bit of a break. Still got a couple NFL stuff to wrap up. Brady, Derek Carr, um, and then the playoff picture. So we'll come back after a little break to discuss more NFL stuff. All right, Matt. Let's finish up our NFL segment here. So we got to talk about the Bucs because you could be playing them now. They clinched that fourth spot. Um, they won the South. They're 8-8. It wasn't pretty at all. It's been an ugly season. Uh, I don't know how concerned you are. I still, I know they had a big game. I still wouldn't be too concerned if I'm playing the Bucks, if I'm gonna be completely honest. Um, but I would definitely be just a tad bit concerned because it seems like Mr. Brady and Mr. Evans finally got their rhythm back. I don't know what had been missing from that duo, for most of the season, just not consistent at least, but Bucks got a big win and Mike Evans showed up when he had to. I'm sure he won a lot of people, a lot of fantasy championships this past weekend. Uh but yeah. I don't know, Matt. What do you think? If the Cowboys have to play the Bucks, do you think they're there? Do you think they're back to that scary form after that Carolina game, or you think it's just the Bucks, have just kind of been off the whole year and you're not too concerned?
I wouldn't say I'm like in the middle, honestly. I'm not gonna say, oh my God, like I don't want to play them. Like they're just like unbeatable at this point. But I'm also not like, yeah, I'm not gonna take them lightly at the same point. Because I understand that Tom Brady in the playoffs is a different beast. And I don't care how bad of a regular season he has, it's like psychologically as an opponent, you kind of have that thought in your head. It's like, oh, we gotta play Tom Brady at home or on the road in Dallas's perspective. It's a tough challenge. It's a tough challenge, but I still don't think the Bucs are where they're at and supposed to be. I know Brady had a pretty good game, actually very good game. 34 for 45, 432 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. So a clean game, but I just think the Bucs they played the Panthers. Like the Panthers are not very good. And I think with this game, Carolina gave this game away to them. Honestly, like any a solid team in playoff contention to me would close this game out if they had the 21 was it 21-10 lead. Uh just a very sloppy game from really both teams to me. Carolina just way too many critical mistakes right when you don't want them to make a mistake. It's like they get a fumble, Donald throws the pick, and it's like the Bucs are getting extremely short fields to score. And give them credit, they did. That's what good teams are supposed to do. But there wasn't really, too many drives where it was like, Brady went 10 plays, 75 yards, just shredded the defense in a nice methodical drive. Like Mike Evans, 3 touchdowns, all of them pretty deep passes, right? So, if we limit those big plays to me, I know Brady is a master of taking the checkdowns, to his tight ends and his running backs. But outside of that, I still didn't see too much from the Bucs offensively. They still can't run the ball to me, which is still baffling
Yeah, I
because they
agree.
have
I think that's going to be a huge problem, man.
they they have like Fournette is still solid,
I
and the
think
fact that
he's
they have
good.
Rashad White too,
I
who's
don't
turned out into a nice player, like
I
just
don't get how they can't
it's
run.
so I just don't get it. I really don't get it. And especially when you have quality running backs like that. And I know they have Brady, but Brady loves to do play action. And I feel like every quarterback would say that. They want to throw off play action. So, and if I'm looking at it from Dallas's perspective, Dallas's strength, or I should say weakness, is the run defense. We can't stop the run for lick. So if Tampa's not going to run, terrific. That's our strength on paper. And what is our biggest asset? It's our pass rushers. We got Micah Parsons, obviously, DeMarcus Lawrence. We've got Dorrance Armstrong, who has turned into a quality player. It's going to have a double-digit sack season, I think. Um, you got Sam Williams, a nice rookie off the edge, a speed rusher. Dante Fowler has been there, a veteran. So you got all these guys that can rush the passer, and that's been Dallas's strength. So I'm playing strength on strength at this point. Bucs want to throw the ball. Dallas loves to rush the passer. So it's a matchup made to me perfectly with the Bucs shorthanded offensive line. Tristan Wirfs is injured. Donovan Smith is injured. Ryan Jensen is still not and they lost obviously Marpe, right? I think he went to the Bengals. Oh no, he went. Did he retire or did he go to the Bengals? Or Kappa was the one. I think Kappa
Um,
retired and Marpe went to the Bengals. I think so. That great wall that Tom Brady had, it's no more. So, but anyway, back to this game. I just want to talk about this last play. So Jake Camarda, probably no one has no idea who this guy is,
oh,
but
the punt.
he's the punter for the Bucs. That has got to be the play of the year. Like that was incredible, right? If he botches or doesn't even get that punt off, the Panthers are probably going to win that game. So just an incredible effort from a punter. So shout out to Jake Camarda for the athleticism. But to the end of the story. Long story short, I'm not gonna panic just yet on the Bucs if in fact Dallas plays them.
All right. Yeah, I something to me, I'm like you, like there's two sides to the story for me. One, obviously, it's Tom Brady. Like you can never, ever, ever, ever count out 12, right? But at the same time, there's just something about how they look this year. And they've had, when he was in New England, they were notoriously slow starters, right? They started slow, everyone's, oh, this is the end, this is the end. But here, November, December comes along, here they are rolling again. But, it's January now. And granted, they played one of their better games recently, but there's still a lot to left to be desired of this team right now. So it's so tough to count out the GOAT, but I'd say this year is probably the year uh everyone is not fearing Tom as much as they used to. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how it plays out for them. And then lastly, or not lastly, but let's talk about the Derek Carr benching because this one was interesting to me, right? Uh, I don't hate Derek Carr. I think he has potential to be uh almost he's almost like Matt Stafford to me when Matt Stafford was in Detroit, Uh I don't think he's as talented of a thrower as Matt Stafford, but
Oh yeah.
I think he's a gamer, for the most part. Kind of almost is almost like a Dak esque scenario to me, like Derek Carr, like he can win you games. I truly think, he can go out fourth quarter and he can win you games. We've seen him do it. He's done it on prime time before. But then he also has games, like their past game where he has a chance and it's a dud. I don't know. Can't excuse some of the other, throws that he makes, decisions that he makes. Um, but I will never doubt that man's effort. He will put 110% in every time. He'll give you his all. Um, but the benching to me in the in the time that it happened too, uh, kind of said to me that they're officially moving on from Derek Carr just because they still theoretically were in the
We're in
playoff
the
hunt.
Mhm.
And, for them to, take Derek Carr out going into what, we had been saying was the best defense in the NFL, right? In the against the 49ers, you know, to throw in Jarrett Stidham, uh guy who has no experience into the fire, in a meaningful game nonetheless. Like that just screams like they're done. They're cutting ways with Carr. They don't care already. He's gone. I don't know if this was a Josh McDaniels thing. I don't know if it was a Mark Davis thing, but I thought Derek Carr earned more than that. You know, he's been through a lot of coaching changes. Kind of reminded me of what Marcus went through in Tennessee. Right, Marcus had like five different coaches in 4 years or something ridiculous. Right, something like that, and people don't really realize how much that impacts you. You're learning different cultures, different um, workplaces. Imagine like your boss changing like almost every year, right? It's that's essentially what Derek Carr was stepping into, like, and it's not even, not even different boss, but all the things that come with that, right? How they're gonna operate, how, the offense is, everything changes. And so I mean, he's not one of the elites, so I'm not gonna say, oh, he's so good. If he goes to another team, they're gonna win. But I thought he deserved a little bit more respect, Matt. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
But I
just
just think it's so odd from the perspective of they were still mathematically in the playoff hunt, and you just make a change like that out of the blue from the public's point of view. Maybe it was something that was internal and they didn't want to leak it until till then, but I just don't understand why you make that switch when you still have a chance to win, because he's still probably the best quarterback on the roster, I would think. So why would you make that change when you're not officially eliminated? Maybe okay, if your season's done,
Yeah.
um, maybe you could fake an injury or something. I don't know, but to just almost effectively give up on the season when you're still mathematically in it, going into the second to the last week of the regular season, just that doesn't make sense to me. That that was the thing that baffled me. So I
Yeah.
guess now the
Yeah.
question is, we're gonna assume he's not gonna be on the Raiders. So where does he go? Who's gonna trade from?
It's got
Because
to
he
be
has that
Indy,
big,
right?
he got the big contract. That's the thing, right? Nobody wants to pay, but he signed that big extension, right? I think it was like a 3-year extension.
Yeah, 3
So
years, 121 million.
that's about 40 million a year, aka Dak, average annual money. So Indy, maybe the Bucs. I don't know. Like,
He's still only 31, so he's not,
yeah, he's got a
too
nice,
old.
yeah, another nice 4 or 5 years, probably as a starter if he plays up to his potential, I would say.
Yeah. That'll be an
And
interesting situation. I don't know what is going to happen there, but I think I don't know if it was an NFL record, but it was like close to being an NFL record for the most. I think 64 quarterbacks have played in the NFL this year, have started a game this year. There's only 32 teams. So I think wherever
so
he
that's two
goes,
quarterbacks a team if
that's
you do the math,
essentially two quarterbacks a team,
right?
right? So there
Crazy.
will be a place for him to go because there's a lot of undecideds, right? You can even look to Arizona. Arizona couldn't do it because they got Kyler. But like, there's a lot of teams that are going to be looking for quarterbacks, and it's like we always think, oh, we know who's gonna be their quarterback, but anything can happen, man. So yeah, it'll be pretty interesting to see where Derek Carr goes because someone's gonna have to pay a lot of money to get Derek Carr. Um, but I guess we'll see. All right. Well, let's just wrap it up really fast. Predictions, Matt. Let's just give predictions. So, who's gonna be the 7 seed? Each side, because I have no idea. But I'll give my best predictions. I was just wondering if you had your predictions yet.
Okay. So, okay, give me a second because I need to pull up the standings. But I'll start with the NFC. So I I think I said this on a pod, but I was like, you can't count out the Green Bay Packers with
Yeah,
Aaron Rodgers.
Mr.
And lo and
Rogers.
behold, they control their own destiny for the playoffs. So I'm gonna go with the Packers. They're playing at home against Detroit. Aaron Rodgers, hard to bet against him in this situation. So I think it's Green Bay, which is kind of scary for the rest of the league. The
Mhm.
fact that Aaron Rodgers is kind of rolling into the playoffs like this. And we all know that he did win a Super Bowl as a wild card. So he's been there, done that. So I'm going to pick Aaron Rodgers. And my goodness, the AFC is just, I don't know. I want to say Miami, but I don't think they win without Teddy at this point. So, but at the same time, New England's playing Buffalo. They're playing for something. I'm gonna say Pittsburgh. Something about Pittsburgh. I think Kenny Pickett has found something. He's coming in clutch in these late game situations, and that's
Yeah.
what you want out of a franchise quarterback. Um, and I think to me the key is they're just a completely different team with TJ Watt. I don't know what it is. That's just maybe just how good he is, but with TJ Watt back and healthy, anchoring that defense. If Kenny Pickett is able to score 20 points, it's like that Cooper Rush effect, right? You score 20 points, you give yourself a chance to win. So with everything kind of more stacked up against Miami just because of the injuries, which is unfortunate. And I think New England is playing Buffalo, so that's a tough matchup for them. So I kind of like Pittsburgh just because of the momentum that they have going into this last week. So that's
Yeah,
my two teams.
I agree with the NFC one because all Green Bay needs to do is win and they're in. So if Detroit, was playing at home, Jared Goff has been lights out at home, but
Yeah,
he has
different
struggled
story.
on the road this year. So, Lions, they're a great story. Next year, maybe they can take that leap into being, a solid playoff contender. But this year, I'm just not buying it in Lambeau with 12, on the other side. And yeah, I'd be a little worried if I'm the NFC. You got Aaron Rodgers rolling into the playoffs like this. So I'm gonna have to stick with the Packers there. And the AFC, I think I think this is so tough because I think there's a lot of things that come into play with this now, especially with what happened tonight, right? We don't know when the Bengals game is gonna be, right? Uh if Are they gonna play sometime this week? But if you would think, right, if they play sometime this week, does that push Cincinnati and Buffalo's, next week games a week back? Like, how is this gonna work? Um, I think that's gonna be something interesting to look at because uh I think now though Buffalo will have just there's just so much emotion in that building right now. So it's going to be hard for them to focus on football. I don't know, what kind of scenario this is going to bring out for them if we're just talking strictly football wise. With emotions like this, it could inspire some players, but at the same time, it's kind of always on your mind. But I think that, if they do end up playing New England this week, then I think Buffalo would still be playing for that one seed and will have a lot of motivation, to play for their teammate. I think they beat the Patriots in a close one. Um and I think that Miami can beat the Jets. Uh I think it's going to be close. It's going to be ugly, but I think they can do it if Teddy. Actually, you know what? Even if Teddy doesn't play, I still think Skylar Thompson, excuse me, with what he's shown this year, and because he's been in some really tough situations, right? But I think he's grown a lot, and even that New England game at the end, it looked like it was kind of out of reach, but I mean Teddy threw the pick six that kind of you know really hurt Miami there. Skylar Thompson, led them on a nice drive that put him an onside kick away from getting one more shot to win the game. And so I think he's been playing better. He's learned a lot this year. And it might be a Mike White versus Skylar Thompson to decide the fate of the
Mhm.
AFC. Um, but really fast, I want to touch on the Kenny Pickett part. I think Kenny Pickett, uh, from what I've been seeing from him throughout the year, he's gonna just be one of those ugly winner kind of guys. Like I think he can win games. Uh, I don't think he's the most talented thrower, at least from what I've seen.
Oh
He's pretty
yeah, for
athletic.
sure.
He's pretty athletic, pretty mobile guy. He's not gonna, you know, he's no Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson or Justin Fields, but he can get out of the pocket. He can throw on the run. Uh, but yeah, I don't think I think he's set up for success in Pittsburgh just because to that defensive culture. You just gotta not make mistakes to win games. So I like what he's done though throughout this year because they were looking completely dead in the water. For them to even be 8-8 is a testament to Kenny Pickett. But I just gotta say,
Mike
really,
Tomlin.
it's a complete testament to Mike Tomlin. Always been always been one of my favorite coaches in the league. I'm not even a Pittsburgh fan, but just how he conducts himself, how he leads his team. his press conferences, how he speaks. I've heard him on some podcasts. He's a great human being as well. For him to not get that team to quit, when they were whatever 3-8 or 3-7, several weeks ago, to be 8-8 and right there on the bubble is just a complete testament to that man. I hope the Steelers should never let him go ever. I think he's one of the like great coaches, and he could very well go down as like one of the greatest head coaches of all time at this point. So props to Mike Tomlin, man, because I don't know how he does it, but it's not like the AFC North is a cakewalk either. But we'll have to see. Um, all right, well that's enough NFL talk. Let's get our second half going with college football. Um, it was a crazy, crazy college football week, Matt. Uh, let's start with the semifinals. So first game we got to talk about TCU and Michigan. I think Michigan was kind of my dark horse that I had to beat Georgia. We were discussing if TCU should be even in the playoffs, but I think they more than showed the country that hey, we're here and we're one of the best teams in the nation. They're a great story too. I mean, could you imagine this team was unranked to start the year, and here they are playing in the college football, playoffs, and they beat Michigan. It wasn't super pretty from their offense, I thought, which is how I thought they were gonna have to, outgun Michigan essentially. But it was their defense and a little bit of help from, JJ McCarthy, right? Two pick sixes, and a fumble, crucial fumble. Uh, it seems like JJ McCarthy is going to be really talented. I think, because he bounced back from each one of those mistakes. Right, he's still true freshman, right? Pretty sure.
I think he's a
Uh, true
sophomore.
freshman. Oh, okay, okay. Well, sophomore.
He's
Well,
a
anyway, this
sophomore.
is his first year, starting. Right, took over
Yeah.
midseason. Um, or excuse me, throughout the season. And I think he showed that hey, he made some mistakes, but he's athletic enough and can throw the ball enough to where he can bounce back. But really, the story of the game, Matt, to me was the, I mean, along with the turnovers, but that last drive, right? You want to talk about the targeting call, not targeting, was it targeting, not targeting? I don't think it was targeting, in that one. I don't. It was, yeah, it was kind of
It's
close because he did lead right with the top of the helmet, but I don't know to call that targeting in that situation. Yeah,
I
I'm
don't think
okay with it.
so.
I'm okay
No.
with a no call there,
Yeah, I
definitely.
agree.
Um, but I don't know. What did you think about this game? You think TCU? Did you like what you saw from TCU, or you're just kind of more disappointed? Oh no, another Harbaugh disappointment, type of year.
It's more on the second part of what you said. It was more of Michigan and the mistakes that they made. Right? You said, what was the score? 51-45.
Yep.
JJ McCarthy throws two pick sixes and they fumble at the TCU 1 yard line. So that's already, to me, that's 21 points. It's a 21-point swing in the game just from turnovers. So and on the first play of the game, Donovan Edwards goes 54 yards. They're in the red zone and they get no points on that drive because they go for it on fourth down. They try to run this like Philly special. It looked just so awkward to me. Too many laterals. Yeah, so Michigan just left way too many points off the board. JJ McCarthy obviously was a big part of that with the mistakes. But you could see the firepower, I think, in his playmaking ability. I
Oh
think
yeah.
he, other than Cade McNamara, who was the guy he kind of beat out, um, kind of a more game manager. But I could see the explosiveness of McCarthy and what he brings, but he just made way too many mistakes. And it's not like Max Duggan played a clean game either. He had
Mm-mm.
a couple picks as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, just more about Michigan's mistakes to me. But I want to ask you this. So at the end of the game, so Michigan, they're on defense now. They need to get the ball back to their
Right.
offense, and they have three timeouts. And I was a little confused why Jim Harbaugh was waiting so long to call those timeouts. There was like 3 minutes left in the game, and they ended up getting the ball back, but it's with under a minute, I think. So I just don't know why you saved those timeouts. Like, wouldn't you want to call the timeouts early? I don't know. What did you think about his
Yeah,
his management
I
with
think
the
I
late
kind of
game clock?
remember um the clock there, but it's cuz it wasn't it because like they I guess cuz they got the first they ended up getting the first down, so it was smart not to use the
Yeah,
timeouts, I guess. Um yeah, I mean like logically it makes sense to call the timeouts probably earlier, but maybe, no 2-minute warning. Uh you try to go it's like um you know comparing it to basketball terms, right? You're going for the steal instead of fouling to me. You know what I mean? It's like there's still just enough time. Maybe that's a math thing. Uh, I guess it kind of worked out for them, but yeah, they didn't leave themselves with a lot of time. So maybe it probably would have been smarter in hindsight to call the timeouts, and just play for the stop. And then after that, okay, well, we tried. But yeah, I'm kind of 50-50, but I would lean on calling the timeouts early. I agree with you there. But yeah, and real quick, just got a shout out. Michigan player, Hawaii boy Roman Wilson played a hell of a game.
oh yeah,
Two
he balled out.
touchdowns. Stepped up really big. So, unfortunately, his season came to an end. But yeah, TCU they did enough on both sides of the ball. Um, and they were, I think the concern was would they be physical enough with Michigan, and they definitely were. Uh, so that was good to see, and I think that will help them bode well going into the championship game where they will face the Georgia Bulldogs in, you know, who what we thought that TCU Michigan game was going to be the game of the day. Boy, were we
Oh
wrong about that one. Um, so
yeah,
first off, talking about the game, I have to tip my cap to Mr. CJ Stroud first and foremost. I know they didn't get the win, but for him to put his team in that situation to come out with a victory, you don't have what's his name, Jackson Smith and
Jackson
Jigba,
Smith and Jigma.
um, who was the star of the Rose Bowl last year, right? To not have him and to lose Marvin Harrison, who to me is the best receiver in the country, no doubt, right? To lose him uh during the game to a non-targeting call. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but for him to, you know, put his team in that position for a chance to win at the end, uh I just got to tip my cap to him. We weren't high on him this year, right? He hadn't looked great through the playoff or, through the regular season. Hit their loss was really bad. Was it two losses? No, just one
They
loss.
lost to Michigan.
Yeah. So that one loss to Michigan, looked really bad, right? It's kind of like, oh man, maybe he's just going to be a good college guy, but I thought he stepped up really big, and with his legs too, kind of showed everyone he can kind of move a little bit, right? Uh, so I got to tip my cap to him, but Georgia, I guess they showed why they're the champs, right? They hung in there, they took the punches, and Stetson Bennett, man, he I guess found a way somehow to win this game. But I don't know, Matt. Is this more of a Ohio State choke to you or Georgia comeback? Because I'm kind of in between on this one.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I'm gonna say I gotta give credit to Georgia. I think in this one I'm gonna lean more towards Georgia. Um, because I don't think Ohio State to me gave the game away. Like they played the game flow of the game was definitely in favor of Ohio State. Um, but I think Georgia, you got to give them credit. They're the defending national champs, and they're not gonna quit. They're like that's just championship football right there. When your back's against the wall, are your guys gonna step up? And I think Stetson Bennett didn't have a great game to me. CJ
Mm-mm.
Stroud definitely outplayed him for sure, but he was able to step up when it mattered most, right? You
He
needed him to
clutched up
make
when
big
it mattered.
plays.
Yep.
He had the game-winning drive. Uh, Guys like him, Brock Bowers steps up with Darnell Washington going down. So like you want your stars to show up. And to me, they showed up in the fourth quarter when it mattered most and when they needed them. So I'm going to give a little slight edge to Georgia and their championship DNA. And then you can maybe Ohio State, they probably should have made the kick at the end, but whatever. That's fine.
That's
But I got
such
to
a
give credit to
tough
Georgia.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but man, that was a hell of a game. Uh, yeah, I just thought, you know, Stetson Bennett showed, why he was a champ, right? But yeah, to me, CJ Stroud's draft stock after this game absolutely skyrocketed. Because I think it fell a lot on a lot of experts' boards. But this is the type of game, that when you don't have all your weapons, right? What are you gonna do? And he showed out,
Mm-hmm.
and hey, he gave his team a chance to win. It was a 50-yard kick. It wasn't even close. I'm sure that kicker is still thinking about that kick
No,
every second of the day, and my heart goes out to him. But you know, if you're CJ Stroud, you gotta be proud and proud of what you showed out there on the field. All right,
I will
well,
say this too on the Ohio State game. So with Marvin Harrison going down, what do you think about the concussion? Was that that targeting call? Like they called it targeting, they ended up changing the call via replay, and then Ohio State doesn't score a touchdown at that point. And that was obviously the difference in the game if you
right,
look at it. So I thought it was unusual that they would change the call from a targeting to non-targeting.
yeah. In that
That one looked
situation,
pretty bad. That's
it
why to
looked
me.
bad, especially in real time. I guess, you could say he did lead with the shoulder after, further review. I, I don't know. It's yeah, like you said, it's odd to go the other way. Usually you won't see the targeting and then you'll see it. Um but I don't know. I guess I'm not too partial either way to me. Um yeah, it is what it is. It's
Because
just
that
unfortunate
that
that
was a huge play. Not for the fact just like the change of the call, they don't score the touchdown, but they lost Marvin Harrison. They win. I think they win that game if
yeah.
he plays a full football game. And I can't even imagine what they would be like if Jackson Smith and Jigma was healthy
Yeah,
this year
see, that's why
and
I'm
he
saying like
played. Oh my
props
goodness.
to CJ
Those
Stroud,
two
man.
guys would be crazy. He would have won the Heisman, honestly.
Yeah, he could have with how he looked last year. He definitely could have. Um All right, well, let's just wrap this second segment with some college football and then we'll have a super short third one. But USC played Tulane today. Um, you know, I thought I had witnessed the worst rush defense of the year just by watching UH play. But USC said, "Hold on, let me show you something." Uh, how does, we talk about CJ Stroud. I gotta tip my hat to Caleb Williams. Uh, almost 500 yards passing, 5 touchdowns. He had one pick, you know, but you would think you hear those numbers, uh, you're winning the game, right? But something about I don't know what it is, Matt. the Lincoln Riley defenses, it baffles me like how they are so bad. I and not gonna lie, I'm kind of happy that Tulane won
Same.
because
Yeah.
uh well, first of all, it's the non-power five, right? Whenever we see like when Boise State used to play back in the day, or obviously we had to play Georgia in that Sugar Bowl, don't like to bring that one up too often, but you always want to see um the underdog win essentially, right? And they just ran all over USC. I mean, 305 yards on the ground, right? Uh just inexcusable from USC. Like, this is your chance. It's Lincoln Riley's first year, all the hype, and they were close. Um they're as good as their offense looked all year. They had their chance. They had the 4 seed. All they had to do was take care of business. Uh, couldn't do it against Utah. So now you're like, okay, we're not playing in one of the big bowls. We gotta, play all Tulane. All right, well, guess we gotta go play Tulane and at least end the season on a win. But nope, nothing comes easy in college football. I don't know, Matt. What is wrong with Lincoln Riley defense? Because that's just
Everything.
pitiful.
Everything is wrong with them. Like 300 yards rushing allowed. And I think the thing that was kind of frustrating is like just focusing on the end of the game. It's like when you're up 2 touchdowns, what is the one thing you don't want to do? You get beat over the top and give up a big play. It's like they did exactly that. Why is a Tulane guy running 10 yards above everybody else ahead of the field? Like that just makes no sense to me. And it's like they're probably the worst tackling team I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's a ranked team. Like that is just embarrassing. So
Well,
they can
good
figure
for
that out over
Tulane.
the
Good for
offseason.
Tulane. Yay. Okay. Well, let's wrap it on football. We'll do a really short segment here on the other side, and we'll wrap up this pod. All right, Matt. So let's wrap it up here. Let's jump over to college basketball. So UH started conference play after the McClanahan miracle, right? Uh, and off to a good start so far. What have you been seeing, and what do you like out of those uh first couple of games?
I think for me, they at least avoided the hangover of the Diamond Head Classic. Coming off a big tournament win, obviously everyone's flying high. It's like you kind of worry about a letdown. It's like, are they going to take their foot off the gas and take someone lightly? And they were able. It wasn't pretty, but they took care of business at home, which is at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So a 2-0 start to conference play is the most important thing. But the thing that I liked, and I gotta say, Jovan is playing really well right now.
Jovan.
Jovan McClanahan has been playing very well in that first game against UC Davis. He was the guy again, really. 23 points, 3 of 3 from three, 7 of 10 from the field. And he did that all in the second half. He had foul trouble too. So the fact that he was able to do that was huge. And I think it's good for him to build off of that, obviously, the game winning shot. So for him to keep that momentum going, that was important to me. And also that game, Mr. Justice Jackson, I'm a Team Jackson guy, by the way, but he had his best game of the year. And really encouraging to see that because his Diamond Head Classic was terrible. One of the worst stretches that he's played, I think. But for him to provide that spark off the bench with Jovan being in foul trouble, he was able to give us 12 points, 5 of 9 from the field. Like that's what you want from him. And it was the way that he was scoring. He was getting easy layups, making tough shots as well, making a couple nice step back threes. So that's the kind of things you want to see from an athletic guard like Justice Jackson. So it was good to see the guard play kind of take over in the UC Davis game. And then the Cal Poly game, um, really unusual game, right? They get out to a huge lead. I think it was 14
It was like
nothing or
16-0.
16-0 run to start the game, right?
And
So
it's
fast
27
start.
to 22 at the half.
And then yeah, then there was the Diamond Head Classic hangover to some degree. The game was a little closer than we wanted it to be. But wasn't really a crazy game, I would say, from anyone. Javon had a decent game, 12 points. Him, Noah Coleman had 12. Kamaka Hepa also had 12. But this game was a little tricky, just because, um, I think the late game execution, I think, was a little shaky. Um, Javon wasn't able to make, the clutch shot that everyone is saying now. Oh my God, he's the clutch player for UH, but he wasn't able to do that. Noel Coleman, uh, for the most part, has been struggling, which is I'm starting to get a little concerned now. He hasn't really found that touch earlier in the season, and especially from the Diamond Head Classic, he's been a little shaky to start conference play. So we're gonna need him. Obviously, he's our best scorer, but it's a little concern, I would say, about Noel Coleman's performance. Um, but the guy that to me is frustrating, actually we'll stay on the good side. So Morsek,
More
coming
set.
off of the Diamond Head Classic, has been playing outstanding basketball. He's taking over as the backup big over Harry Relief in the rotation, which I thought should have been from the start of the season. Um, I just don't think Harry has the body yet. I think I see the skill set, I see the talent, but I just think he's not athletic enough, and he needs to kind of build that up. Maybe in a year or two he can be a nice contributor, but I think right now with a team that's ready to win, you definitely want guys to impact the game immediately. And I think Morsek has really grown from the time he stepped foot on campus. You could see the raw talent that he had initially, but he's starting to figure some things out. I think he knows his role, right? Is to rebound and play good defense. He's a shot blocker. He's a presence at the rim, and he's making a difference because guys are having to make difficult shots over him. So he is a true rim protector, and something that UH hasn't really had since maybe the tournament team with the Yanks, honestly. So it's nice to see Morset providing that spark off the bench. But I want to talk about Kamaka Hepa a little bit. A guy to me that it's so frustrating because he's 6'11". He has the probably the most gifted body frame on the UH team. With the dominant size, he's an athletic dude, yet he plays the smallest guy on the floor sometimes.
Like a
And
guard.
it frustrates me. And it's like the shots that he takes, it's three, like he's taking transition threes. Like, no, like if you're gonna shoot a three, it's like a catch and shoot three off an assist. Like, I don't want you pulling up, jacking up threes like Kyrie Irving or something like that, or Steph Curry. Like, no, you're not like that. And it's like when you go inside, you got to go inside strong. And it's like there's no physicality to me with his game. Um, I gotta give credit to this guy as well. Giving a lot of flowers to this player right now. So this is kind of unusual. But Jovan, for the size that he is, I will say he plays bigger than he actually is. Like he attacks the rim or tries to attack the rim, I will say sometimes. But he's a guy who's gonna try to get into the paint. He's kind of developed that step back, that little 14, 15-foot turnaround shot from the paint. But he's kind of like a little bulldog in the paint. So he's a guy that's small but plays big. Kamaka Hepa is the exact opposite. So I need a guy like that. I know his strength is to shoot the three. He's a stretch four. But when you're 6'11" and you're playing college basketball, this is not the NBA when you're going up against Joel Embiid and guys like that. You're playing college basketball, which
Mm-hmm.
is mostly a guard-oriented, you know, teams for the most part. You're gonna have 3, 4 guards and one big. UH has the luxury. They have Bernardo da Silva. He's the four. He's gonna guard the big. So Kamakapa, it's like, dude, you're the next biggest guy on the floor. Like you need to be dominating inside. Like you can still shoot the threes. That's your game. But I need to see some strength and some post moves with you. because how can you be 6'11" and not have a post move? Like that just makes no sense to me. So I need to see him be much better on the inside, in order for UH to continue to be a better team as we go into conference play. But as much as that I said that they're 2-0, and like I said, this is the team of destiny this year. So a good start. They go on the road next week, so it'll be interesting how they handle their first road trip against San Diego, and then obviously Fullerton is going to be a tough opponent as the defending Big West champs. So, yep, it'll be a long conference play season, I will say, but off to a good start.
Off to a good start indeed. Okay, well, just sticking on basketball to wrap up the pod. Got to shout out Donovan Mitchell, man. Tonight he dropped
NBA.
71 points. Not only did he drop 71 points, only needed one overtime to do it, but 71 points. Also had 10 assists. He accounted for 99 total points tonight. Uh, Kind of insane. And I think, the NBA had set the record in December for the most 40-point games in NBA history with like 45. Um, and I'm not sure if it's the league, still in this transition phase to where it's all about offense and running and getting out in transition and going, or it's kind of a new, you could say it's a theory, but it just seems like now, even more than ever, the NBA is relying on a star from each team. And it's kind of like every team now acknowledges who their guy is, and they will take all the shots um that they want, pretty much. Like some teams have a couple guys, right? Um but it just seems like scoring is just coming so easy to some of these guys. Um but it's just coming a lot of 1 to 2 man teams. So I'm really interested to see how it's gonna pan out in the playoffs. Um I mean, just look at like Luca, for example, right? Like he's putting up insane numbers right now. But to me, they're still just 1 man team. Uh like the guys I would be worried about is like right now Brooklyn, they haven't had
Mhm.
any of those huge explosion games from Kyrie or KD, but they've won 12 straight. And yeah, if those guys can get it rolling and stay healthy into the playoffs, that is definitely a concern. Um, but I mean the standings, man, we're now about almost at that 40 game mark, right? In the season. And in the West, teams 1 through 10 are still only separated by 6 games. So we know
Crazy.
how tight it was, right? We're now almost 40 games in, and still 6 games separate the 1 and the 10 seed. The 1 and the 10 seed. Just thinking about that. So, um, I mean, it's just such great basketball being played by all teams right now, and real sleeper for me. They're not even a sleeper anymore, but the Pels. Oh, Zion is, taking over as a superstar. CJ is still doing his thing. And when Brandon Ingram comes back, that's a tough team right there, to me. So we'll see. And hey, my Lakers, we're not out of it. We're only 2 games back. LeBron is playing like he's 25, not 38. Or whatever. Is he 38 or 39?
38.
38.
Just turned
38
38.
now. I mean, insane how he's been able to keep up his level of play. But we're in for a real treat. And I think we're in safe hands once football ends, Matt, because the last stretch, after the All-Star break, is going to be wild. Every single game is gonna count towards seeding, towards who gets in, home court advantage, all that. But I just gotta say one more thing. As good as Luka has looked, as good as Tatum has looked, Embiid, Giannis, all these guys, Jokic to me is still the MVP. I think he's gonna be a three-timer. I would put Luka second. Um, but right now to me, something about Jokic, man, it's just he's just the best. Is he the best player in the league right now? I don't know.
He's the unsexiest best player in the league. Let me say that.
Yeah, it is. But it's just so the game looks so easy to him. Like it's like watching Luca play, but in a 7 foot tall frame. Um, but yeah, lots of good basketball yet to be played. All right, that'll wrap it up. For us here, Matt. Why don't you take us home? With our sports fact today.
All right. So today is January 2nd. We are recording. So let's start back to 1985. College basketball fact, actually. So the UNLV basketball team, coached by the Shark, Jerry Tarkanian, he got his 600th career victory with the 142-140 win over Utah State. Uh, he's one of the greatest coaches in college basketball history. I would say him, obviously Coach K is up there, Dean Smith, Bob Knight. So Tark the Shark, one of the coaches that I knew about growing up, even though we didn't get to really live in that era. So a nice testament to him. But luckily, I was going on Twitter right before we were going to record, so I got two facts today. So the second fact happened 1 year ago.
Okay.
Antonio Brown went rogue
Oh
one
no.
year ago when
It's
he
the
threw
last time
his tantrum
we'll ever see
against the
AB.
Jets. Yep, that was Antonio Brown's last NFL game, probably of his career, when he
Yep.
went rogue and threw off his jersey at MetLife, and we haven't seen him since. So, yep, lucky day for us. Two sports facts today.
Okay. Well, that'll wrap it up for us, everyone. It was a little bit longer today, but had a lot to talk about. Um, like we said earlier, we hope everyone has a great 2023. Let's make it a good one, everyone. Hope everyone stayed safe over the weekend, had a good time, and yeah, let's make it a great year, Mr. Fanatic.
I
So
agree.
let's make it a great
With a
year.
Cowboy Super Bowl and a Yankee World Series, which I wish for every year.
Yeah, what's new? But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you guys next week.